to the Vallecitos Water District Special Board Meeting of December 13th, 2023. I hereby call the meeting to order. Notice to the public. Before we begin, I would like to announce that members of the public may watch the meeting live via computer or smart device by going to the district's website and clicking on the Watch Live icon. However, they will not be able to participate in the meeting remotely. Members of the public may also listen to the meeting live on their phone by dialing 888-788-0093 toll-free or 877-853-5247 toll-free. When prompted, enter the meeting ID and passcode displayed on the district's website. Next, we have the Pledge of Allegiance. I would like Vice President Pinnock to please lead us.
All right. Repeat after me. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, first up, we have a roll call. Please indicate your attendance. I don't think mine is turned on. Okay, we'll do voice. Director Hernandez?
Here.
Vice President Pinnock?
Here.
Director Elithar?
Here.
Director Grosset?
Here.
And President Boyd Hodgson is also here.
Good. It's like the mics are working.
Yeah, the mics are down right now, so we're trying to get IT help.
Okay, all right, we can work around that. Okay. Any additions to the agenda?
No additions, ma'am.
Okay. May I have a motion to adopt the agenda for the special meeting of December 13th, 2023?
Move to approve.
Motion by Director Hernandez. Do I have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Vice President Pinnock.
Okay. On the motion of Director Hernandez, seconded by Vice President Pinnock, to adopt the meeting for the regular meeting of December 13th, 2023, sorry, the special meeting. Director Grosset, how do you vote?
For what? Sorry.
To adopt the agenda?
Approve. Yes.
Director Elithar?
Yes.
President Boyd Hodgson?
Yes.
Vice President Pinnock?
Yes.
Director Hernandez?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. Thank you. And thank you for stepping in and being flexible. Okay. Public comment is next on the agenda, and I believe I read a statement. Persons wishing to address a matter not on the agenda may be heard at this time. However, no action will be taken until the matter is placed on a future agenda in accordance with board policy. Public comments are limited to 3 minutes. A request to speak form is required to be submitted to the Senior Executive Assistant prior to the start of the meeting, if possible. Public comment should start by stating the name, address, and topic. The board is not permitted during this time to enter into a dialogue with the speaker. Do we have any speakers?
Yes.
Okay, please approach the podium.
Hello, Patsy. My name is Steph Saavedra. I'm Ñoño Pueblo and Salaki. And I've actually been a tribal liaison for a number of tribes in the area, and I've been working with them for well over 30 years. And I am here in support of the tribal acknowledgement for the tribes in this area. My son, who is with me, he is actually Kumeyaay Kupa, but I've also worked closely with the Liseño tribe. And I just want to share some things with you. I wasn't quite sure if all of you had known or heard about this. Article 1, Section 2, Clause, the Constitution states that Congress shall have the power to regulate commerce with foreign nations and among several states and with Indian tribes. Determining that Indian tribes were separate from federal government and the states, as in we're seen as foreign nations. And also in the Declaration of Independence from Jefferson, where we are called merciless Indian savages. Well, we are not, and we are here. And we've actually been the stewards of the land and the water and resources for a millennium. I mean, our people have been here at least 20,000 years, if not longer. And I believe it is the right thing to do, and it is honorable to acknowledge the tribes of this area. I mean, travel on. That was a traditional way of basically getting around, and now it's paved over. We have been fighting to keep the environment clean, and that includes the water. And you folks, as the Vallecitos Water District, have the ability to honor the people of this lands, of which it is incredibly important. You know, I'm not from this particular tribe or this area, but I always make sure that when I go to another traditional territory, that I honor those people, because that's what you do. Because we want to come forth in a good way, and I believe all you folks are here for the right reasons, to preserve the water and to make sure that everybody has clean, safe, equitable water. And I'm here in support of the land acknowledgement, and actually all of us are. So I just wanted to thank you, Tiffany. She's worked with a number of different tribes and organizations, and she's supported our people, and she's definitely wanting to help keep everything flowing in a nice, honorable way. So for that, Tiffany, thank you. And we see you, and we appreciate you, and we hope that everyone is able to honor the land acknowledgement.
Thank you.
Komoe kokari, which means I believe this to be all my heart, and thank you.
Thank you for those comments. Do we have any other public comments? Okay, thank you. Next on the agenda are the consent items. Do we have any board members wishing to pull a consent item from the consent calendar? Okay. May I have a motion to approve the consent calendar?
So moved.
Okay, do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, is there any discussion? Okay. There's no discussion, then I guess we vote?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
On the motion of Director Elitharp, seconded by Vice President Pennock, to approve consent items as presented, Director Grosset, how do you vote?
Yes.
Director Elitharp?
Yes.
President Boyd Hodgson?
Yes.
Vice President Pennock?
Yes.
Director Hernandez?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. And thank you again, Anthony. Okay, moving on to the action items. This is a special board meeting, and we have a singular action item on our agenda this evening. It is the committee appointments and representatives. And I want to say a few words before we start. First, I am optimistic. I am optimistic that this meeting will go well. And I want to publicly congratulate Director Hernandez for being elected president of the Encino Wastewater Authority. I have figured out a way to make all of you happy with these appointments. I reached out to each of you. You told me what your priorities are, and I am going to honor those tonight. If we can get through the first two votes, and the first two votes will be standing committees. So we're going to do something a little bit unusual tonight. We will be breaking up the committees in chunks by vote. So the first vote that we will take is a slate of standing committees. And I will pass two down here. And I will pass two down here. And I should have made more copies, and I apologize, I did not, but I will read it out. According to Ordinance 221, which I have here in my hand, I should have highlighted it, but I didn't. Standing advisory committees. The district shall have the following standing advisory committees, each of whose function is to advise the board of directors and general manager with respect to the subjects under its jurisdiction. The standing committees are thus: engineering equipment, finance investment, public awareness, personnel, policy, and legal legislative affairs. I have presented to my colleagues a slate of the four listed standing committees. The P3 committee, which is the Public Awareness Personnel Policy Committee, I have proposed myself as chair and Director Grosset as the member. For the Engineering Committee, I have proposed Director Elitharp as chair and Vice President Pinnock as the member. For the Legislative Affairs Committee, I have proposed Director Pinnock as chair with Vice President Pinnock as chair and Director Hernandez as the member. And for Finance, I have proposed Director Grosset as chair with Director Elitharp as the member. I would like to take that vote. Do I have a motion?
Move to approve?
Okay. Do I have a second?
Second?
Is there any discussion about these standing committees?
Quick question, ma'am.
Mhm.
The Engineering and Equipment Committee, can you repeat those?
Yes.
items, please?
And I apologize, I went through it quickly. Engineering Chair, Director Elitharp. And member, Director Pinnock. Vice President Pinnock. I'm sorry, I will get it. I will get it. I will get it.
Jim's good.
Okay, we have a motion and a second.
Question down there?
Yes.
I would just offer to Director Elitharp to yield, if it's okay, my chair of finance, given my being the newest to the board and honoring his experience.
So you're, sounds like maybe you're substituting, or how is the process? Move to strike? Move to
Well, I
strike?
think he's talking about rotating the chair, right?
Chair versus member, correct.
But we have to just, that's part of the discussion, so then if I wanted to move that, it's a separate motion. Okay, Director Hernandez, are you willing to withdraw your motion? And Vice
Yes.
President Hernandez, are you willing to withdraw your motion? Okay, so I will now move the slate to include a correction or a new proposal with Director Elitharp being the chair of the finance.
Well, assuming he's interested.
Yeah, that's fine. You didn't need to do that. I appreciate it.
Okay.
Thank you.
And then Director Grosset as the member. Okay. Do I have a motion to approve that slate?
Move.
Okay. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, great. Any more discussion? Any discussion?
Yeah. Yeah, I guess I'd kind of like to see overall before voting on each. I assume you're going to have a separate vote for the other appointments.
I am, and my preference is to present them because I was told that I could in this way. And I will reassure you that all of you told me what your priorities are, and I am prepared to accommodate all of your priorities.
Okay.
Call for the question?
Okay? Let's vote on this slate.
On the motion of Director Hernandez, seconded by Director Grosset, to approve the standing committees as presented by President Boyd Hodgson. Director Grosset, how do you vote?
Yes.
Director Elitharp?
Yes.
President Boyd Hodgson?
Yes.
Director Pinnock?
Yes.
Director Hernandez?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Great. Congratulations, everyone.
Just for the record, can someone provide a copy of what you gave to the board so that
Yep.
Anthony has that to incorporate into his minutes?
Yeah, I think I wrote it down, just for repeating. For engineering, it's Director Elitharp as chair, Director Pinnock as member. For finance, it'd be Director Elitharp as chair, Director Grosset as member. For the P3, it'd be President Boyd Hodgson as chair, and Director Grosset as member. And legal would be Vice President Pinnock as chair and Director Hernandez as member.
Yep.
Okay, here's where we get a little creative. And again, I am optimistic that I can accommodate all of you, every one of your wishes, all of them. But I need your cooperation, and I need your indulgence, and to think outside the box for a few minutes with me. Section 1.8 of the Standing Advisory Committees also stipulates, other standing committees may be established by the board president. The precise and/or additional duties and responsibilities of each standing committee shall be as specified by the president from time to time. I believe that there are a couple of standing committees that need to be created. So this is the time to time from my perspective. I am proposing, and once we vote on these, you're not voting on whether or not these are established. I have the authority to establish these standing committees according to 221, Ordinance 221. You are voting on the slate that I am proposing. And this slate, also according to 221, must be unanimous because Director Elitharp was just voted to be chair of the Finance Committee, and I was just voted to be chair of the P3 Committee. So these must be unanimous. And I'm asking for your cooperation and your unanimous vote on these committees. The first committee will be the Land Use and Developer Relations Committee. The purview will be to assume the responsibilities of the heretofore ad hoc Hillside Property Committee, expand to talk to all developers and work closely with the City of San Marcos and developers for city planning and water use. As we develop more of San Marcos, it is going to be imperative that we maintain good relationships with them and we maintain constant relationships with them, as with the City of San Marcos. I am proposing to chair that committee with Jim Pennock as the member. The second standing committee I am proposing will be a Climate and Water Reuse Committee. I am proposing that Director Elitharp chair that committee and that I be a member on that committee. That removes the P3 committee from talking about climate change and the Climate Action Plan, which we have been doing, and it puts it into a more specialized committee so that we can start talking about the Climate Action Plan. We can seek innovative ways to capture stormwater and plan for water recycling here in San Marcos. May I have a motion? We will discuss after a second.
So moved.
Sorry, Mayor, can you repeat the delegates again, please?
For Land Use and Developer Relations, Chair Tiffany Boyd Hodgson, Member Jim Pennock.
Thank you, ma'am.
For Climate and Water Reuse, Chair Craig Elitharp, Member Tiffany Boyd Hodgson.
Thank you.
We have a motion. Do I have a second?
I can second.
Okay. Second by Vice President Pennock. Discussion. Yes.
Just one clarification, for the Land Use and Developer Communication Committee, this will take the place also, it'll do a larger scope, but it'll take the place of the need for the separate Hillside Development Committee, correct?
Yes. Any discussion?
I have a question for Mr. Gilpin, actually. Is 6 committees done anywhere else that you know of?
Well, it depends. Just so you understand, a standing committee is one that's going to meet regularly, that's governed by the Brown Act, versus the ad hoc committee, which the Hillside Committee is currently a ad hoc committee, which is not subject to the Brown Act, so there are legal ramifications to making the change. But most agencies I'm aware of have four standing committees, but it's not, it's up to your discretion.
Thank you.
Is the City of San Marcos General Plan Advisory Committee then replaced?
No.
That'll stay as is?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Did I understand you to say that the Land Use and Developer Relationship is not a Brown Act committee?
It is a Brown.
No, it will be because it's proposed as a standing committee. By definition, a standing committee is one that meets regularly, has regular scope of duties and is subject to the Brown Act.
The question I have is, sometime, and it won't be next week, that project will be developed and then we'll move off of it. If it's a standing committee, then its term and use is over. So I'm wondering, then what would the Land Use Development Relations Committee do?
They will be working to develop relationships with the developers to help educate them around what we do, how we can work together, capacity fees, how we can partner with the city of San Marcos to ensure that we are marching in lockstep and aware of what the city of San Marcos is doing. That was the intent. And it doesn't mean necessarily, I think the legal committee meets what, like once every 6 months or so? It wouldn't have to be a regular meeting similar to other meetings, like monthly. It could meet with the frequency similar to an ad hoc committee, but it expands the scope so that we can have meetings with the city of San Marcos, with developers, and we can have a conversation when developments are going to come before us. We can have conversations in that way.
I'm torn because those last two items you mentioned are things we can do anytime we want. We can have developers come in, discuss their concerns. I think by and large, the developers in our community pretty much know what we do and how we do things. So it seems a bit redundant. Concerning ourselves with what's going on in the city of San Marcos, not to be disrespectful to them, but they're on roads and potholes. And we're on water, and in the 12, 13 years that I've been on the board, we may have had 2 general meetings together, but beyond that, we've moved together in a pretty consistent way with our managers talking to each other, even when they didn't disagree. When they disagreed, it seems to have worked. As I say, I just wondering if Land Use and Development Relations isn't a redundant committee that we should just leave as is in the name. The people on it I'm not too concerned about, but just leave it as an ad hoc committee, and when it's done, it's done. The rest of it we can do in our normal order of business. My view.
Other discussion points? Director Grosset, you look like you wanted to say something.
Well, I think previously you've voiced concerns about not knowing what may be going on in one committee or in another, and I think that's a communications issue that can easily be ironed out. But when it comes to something like developers and development, I would prefer the whole board is hearing both from them directly as well as the contractors. I've always said that if somebody doesn't get their bid and they're upset about it, they should come to the meetings and explain why. I would love to hear it. Same thing for developers. And I think it would be to the biggest benefit to the public if we could all hear what both of those sides are saying. So I don't know if that can coincide with this or if that's coinciding with what's happening right now, but that's the way that I would love for it to be.
May I, point of order, can I offer a substitute motion?
You can't, at the risk of, I'm concerned relative to the way our agenda was agendized tonight because it's dealing with committee appointments and representatives. There's been no transparency for the public relative to the creation of these other standing committees or an opportunity, I think, for folks to digest and deliberate on what you're proposing. I'm not suggesting it's bad or good. I'm just saying, process-wise, maybe it would be better to propose the creation of these committees for a future agenda item, to create them so everybody can understand the basis of it and what we're going to do. Because quite frankly, my reading of this would have been, we're going to appoint to the committees that we currently have.
About this. And in trying to create equity as well as address issues that I think we are facing, this was the creative solution that was within my power that I came up with.
I'm not questioning that. I'm questioning our ability to create a standing committee, which would take board action to create it. You know.
Well, I think it takes board action to vote on who serves on it. By my reading of 221, I can create the standing committee.
Okay. I will tell you, I haven't analyzed it because I haven't been asked to. I wasn't, aware of this, but I've expressed my concerns, so if you want to move forward.
Okay, thank you.
Then I would propose a substitute motion,
Okay,
and that motion would be to create a standing committee of the Hilltop Committee only, with the chair being President Boyd Hodgson and member Jim Pennick.
Can I just remind you all, the standing committees, and this may seem insignificant to you, but it's a committee that's meets on a regular basis on items beyond just a special issue. And the hillside development was done as an ad hoc because it's a single special issue that's expected to terminate at some point in time. So there would be no quote-unquote continuing jurisdiction for the committee. In addition, those committee meetings are going to be Brown Act committees open to the public with a required agenda being published, which may or may not serve your needs with respect to what you're trying to do with respect to the Hilltop property as I understand it. So it may hamper your abilities.
Then may I change my motion?
But you can withdraw your previous one and
I
submit
will
a new.
withdraw my previous motion, make a substitute motion that we keep the ad hoc committee for the Hilltop project with the chair Boyd Hodgson and member Jim Pennick.
okay.
Well, I just think for point of order, the meeting tonight was for appointments.
Yes.
The ad hoc committee is currently there. President Boyd Hodgson has not gotten to her appointments relative to that, and we need to defer to her relative to those recommendations and then take that up at that point in time versus dealing with it on a motion at this point.
Why don't we vote on these separately? And remember, they must be unanimous, so we will vote on these separately and then we will move forward.
So, Director Hernandez, so the ad hoc committee currently exists,
Right.
and it's still up to the president to place membership for the board to consider.
Right.
Okay, well, we'll deal with it as
Okay.
it comes.
Okay, may I have a motion? Okay, so are you willing to withdraw?
I'm withdrawing.
Okay, all right, okay, so let's clean slate. Okay,
Can I ask one more question?
yes,
Can you just clarify your concerns with these? Again, it's because they weren't agendized and therefore the public hasn't had a chance to understand that there's two potentially new committees that never existed before?
Correct, and what the scope of the authority of those committees is, et cetera.
And if I understand President Boyd Hodgson's rebuttal to that, it's your personal belief of your interpretation of that is that this is allowable?
it says in ordinance 221, which we have, which governs our governance. Other standing committees may be established by the board president. The precise and/or additional duties and responsibilities of each standing committee shall be as specified by the president from time to time. And then it goes on to say, each standing committee shall have 2 members recommended by the president from the members of the board. However, in no event shall the same 2 members be permitted to serve together on more than one standing committee without the unanimous approval of the board, so that's why I said these have to be unanimous. Committee appointments recommended by the president require approval by a majority of the board, which is what we are voting on tonight. The president shall appoint a committee chairman from the 2 members, that should say chairperson, by the way, the 2 members of the board serving on each committee. However, no member shall be permitted to chair more than one standing committee without the unanimous approval of the board. So it requires, there is a check and balance. It requires unanimous approval. It sounds like we don't have the votes for the Land Use and Developer Relations Committee. Sounds like we might have the votes for the Climate and Water Reuse Committee. So that's why I suggested we take them separately.
Well, I don't disagree with your reading of that particular, it sounds that you are properly doing this. I think that there's 2 separate issues, that what Mr. Gilpin is saying, that you can certainly do it, it's just wasn't put on the public's notice. To that regard, I feel uncomfortable personally voting on both of these based on that. But I don't necessarily disagree with them. I think that they're well-intended and probably interested to me personally.
Okay, Director Elithar?
Yeah, the 2 proposed standing committees weren't offered to the public in advance for review, but neither are the traditional board appointments. I'm a little bit concerned about that discrepancy. Such as these.
Just for clarification, so I understand what you're doing. Are these looking to replace any other committee? Like, I know you said the Hillside, they're just under a different umbrella.
So with the discussion that we have had here, it sounds like that they will not. That it sounds to me, what I'm hearing from you all, is that the Land Use Developer Relations Committee will not be a standing committee. We will keep the ad hoc committee, which we will discuss in a few minutes.
Okay.
And the Climate and Water Reuse Committee will be a new committee.
Totally new committee, not replacing any.
Correct.
And
And also,
would there be any ad hoc committees underneath that climate and water use standing committee? Is there something?
not that I
So it'd
had
be
any-
just an additional standing committee?
It would be an additional standing committee. It's also convenient in that there are 5 of us, and now there are 5 standing committees. So that means that each of us potentially has the opportunity to chair a standing committee.
And that's why you're proposing voting on them independently?
Well, that's partially why I'm proposing voting on them independently. But if it seems like there's potentially support for one and not support for the other, so I don't want to throw the baby out with the bathwater. So,
And just to clarify, if it does not move, whether it moves forward or not tonight, it could come back at a subsequent board meeting regardless.
but it has to be unanimous.
The addition of each committee and the membership has to be, well, the membership of
The
each
membership,
committee you're proposing, as you've read it.
Yes, it has to be unanimous.
Could you repeat the potential motion?
Well, if there's no other point of discussion, the motion would be first to vote on the Land Use Developer Relations Committee with chair being myself and member Jim Pennock as a new standing committee. That would be the first motion. So can I have a motion?
And that, I'm sorry, that committee you're referring is the Land Use and Development Committee.
Land Use and Developer Relations Committee.
And what's the
yes.
scope of authority that you've proposed for it?
The Land Use Developer Relations Committee will assume the responsibilities of the heretofore ad hoc Hillside Property Committee and work closely with the City of San Marcos and developers for city planning and water use. May I have I guess I could move. I'm moving that we vote on that. I move that we vote as specified.
I think I moved originally on both items.
Thank you. Okay.
I think there was a second before we got into discussion.
Okay.
So
So,
there's a motion and second on both committees, the appointments to both committees. Anthony, okay.
The creation and appointment.
I'm willing to modify my original motion to take them separately.
Okay,
That's fine.
okay.
So Director Althar, you're gonna withdraw your motion then and go with President Boyd Hodgson's motion?
Take each separately,
Okay,
and whoever seconded it
Would have to.
would have to do the same thing.
are you willing to withdraw your second, Director Grosset?
I believe it was Director Penner.
Director?
I'll withdraw my second.
Okay. Okay, so then I will entertain a motion for the Land Use and Developer Relations Committee as specified on this piece of paper. And we'll-
To include which two members?
To include myself as chair and Vice President Pinnock as the member.
Is there a motion to approve?
I believe President Boyd Hodgson already motioned. so
Well,
she
she
could-
does, that's not how it happened.
Okay.
She's proposing this, so there needs to be a motion and a
Okay.
second to approve her recommendation.
I thought I modified mine.
Okay,
So
Do that.
okay,
Director Eltharp has moved. Is there a second?
okay. Is there a second? Okay, seeing no second, then that motion fails. Climate and water reuse, creation of a new standing committee with Chair Director Elitharp and myself as the member. The Climate and Water Reuse Committee will develop the climate action plan and seek innovative ways to capture stormwater and plan for the recycling of water in San Marcos. May I have a motion?
So a discussion before this? Is there something going on now with that though? I mean, are we not already doing, do we not already have a climate action plan?
We do not already have a climate action plan. We have started the discussion in the P3 committee, but it is a very big job. And I would like to see a committee that addresses not only climate action, the climate action plan, but the capturing of stormwater and recycling of water here in San Marcos. I think that's an opportunity for us to really lead on this example, and I think we need devoted people to talk about it in absence of personnel policy and public awareness. Yes,
This is, you just hit it on the head, this is a big undertaking. And I would like to agendaize this creation of this particular committee to hear from our manager, our attorney, and our staff as to how big of a burden is this going to be placed on all of us in addition to the committee before I'm comfortable in making a decision.
okay. Any other discussion?
This has to pass unanimously.
Yes.
I mean, just to put it out there, yeah, I mean, I agree. I mean, I agree with what he's saying. I think it's a great concept. I think we do need another standing committee. However, I think as far as the agenda is and going through the proper channels would be prudent.
Okay.
Now, may I make a motion?
Yes.
Because I think those two have failed.
Well, I think it's, we have to move, and then if there's no second, it fails,
I
right?
don't think we had a
Well, you
motion.
don't have a
You don't have
motion.
a motion
We
currently.
didn't get a motion out of that second part.
Okay,
Can I just suggest to you all that you perhaps consider a motion to table these items to the next regular meeting when it can be presented? And we can work with the president to prepare the proposed language for the standing committees, and then you could consider it at that time. That way it doesn't die today.
Yeah, so our next board meeting would be January 17th, and that'd give us staff enough time to work with the president, go over the scope of the items, bring it back to the board with more information, which includes, for example, the second one, the staff, the district already does a lot in the water reuse world, and we've done a lot of stormwater capture information and know where the dead ends are, so kind of get a better idea of kind of where the innovations are, what we have planned. The climate action, there's still a lot of room for growth within the district on that. And then of course, obviously with the land use, see how it interacts with the existing hilltop development and see where that scope goes, and also work on what we already do with the city of San Marcos and developers and see where those enhancements could be found.
May I make a substitute motion?
Well, there is no motion, but you.
Oh, I
can-
thought you
No,
suggested.
I suggested one, but
Oh.
I can't move.
So I think that that's a good idea. I think that we've started the conversation. It's not exactly the way I was hoping it would go, but we've started the conversation. So
It's very good.
I think it's a good idea to table it, and then we will discuss it. So I need a motion to table.
Motion to table.
Okay, do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Okay. And I presume there's no more discussion after that, right? Okay, so let's vote.
On the motion to move the two standing, or the presented standing committees to the next board meeting for discussion, motion by Vice President Penna, seconded by Director Elithart. Director Grosset, how do you vote?
Affirmative, yes.
Director Elithart,
Yes.
President Boyd Hodgson,
Yes.
Vice President Penna,
Yes.
Director Hernandez.
Yes.
Motion passes.
So we'll bring this back on the 17th of January. I'll work with President Boyd Hodgson on the scoping and provide some staff input on the areas where we currently are already working on some of those items. And so this way the board is fully aware of the additional increase in not only work, but also where the opportunities are.
Okay, I think that sounds good. Okay,
Excuse me,
finally,
ma'am. Sorry.
Yes, yes.
Before we move on, if we can take attendance again, I think we have the system back up and
Okay,
running.
great.
Oh, we're good?
Thank you. Thank you for bringing that back online. Thank you, Jonathan. Okay, great. Okay, so I'm still optimistic. I'm
Good.
still
As you
optimistic.
should be.
I have proposed a slate, and I want to thank you all for your input, and I think that you all will be happy with this slate. So, this is the slate of the external committee assignments. You all will recall that I have spoken out frequently about the opportunities for learning and development within these committees. And I have also voiced my discontent at having never been given the opportunity to serve on one, except for once out of 27 opportunities. What I have tried to do is listen to you all. I have tried to consider your priorities. I've tried to consider the work that you are already doing. It was clear from conversations that I had with you that the work that you are doing is very important to you, and you wanted to continue doing that work. I think you all represent us well on these committees. I want to congratulate Director Hernandez for becoming the president of the Encino Wastewater Authority as of this morning. And I would propose that we move forward with this slate of committee assignments as listed.
Can you just review it?
Move to approve.
Yep. Let me, I've been asked to read them out, so I will read them out. For the San Diego County Water Authority, the representative will be Director Elitharp, with myself being the alternate. For the Encino Wastewater Authority, the delegates will be Director Hernandez and Director Pinnock. I actually did not put an alternate in, so do we need an alternate? We've got two delegates, we don't need an alternate.
No, and not all committees allow alternate,
Okay.
correct?
The Water Authority
Yeah, the
doesn't.
Water Authority does not allow an
Okay,
alternate.
all right, I apologize. For CASA, Director Elitharp is the delegate. For GPAC, I am the delegate, with Director Hernandez and Director Pinnock being the alternates. For the Aqua JPIA, Director Pinnock is the delegate, with Director Grosset being the alternate. For the San Diego North, I don't think I spelled that right, the SDNEDC Economic Development Corporation, Director Grosset is the delegate. For the U.S. Water Alliance, myself and Director Grosset are the delegates.
Is there no alternate for North County EDC?
There wasn't listed last year.
We never met last year either.
I'm sorry?
There was no
meeting.
alternate. That was the question. There was no alternate.
Okay.
Okay.
May I have a motion to approve the slate?
Move to approve.
Okay, may I have a second?
Second.
Okay, any discussion? Yes,
I just want to recognize and appreciate your thoughtfulness in putting this together. I think you took everyone's thoughts into account, and I think you did a great job approaching it, and appreciate the spirit of it.
thank you. Yes,
I missed the second. Which director was the second?
Director Elithar.
I believe it was Director Pennick.
It's Director Pennick.
Director Pennick? Okay,
They switched places, I'm confused.
thank you.
okay, any other discussion?
Just I agree with what Director Gross said, too.
Okay,
Your optimism is contagious. Good job.
Yeah, I'd like to say also, I agree 100% with the statements by the other two directors. It's not an easy job. I
No.
appreciate the thought you put into it.
and my creativity, I'd like to give a shout out to my creativity. To be determined or to be continued. Okay, any other discussion? Okay, let us vote.
Director Hernandez?
Oh, I pressed it. There we go. I was looking at the wrong one.
And it passes unanimously. Thank you for your votes, and we have a lot of work to do. Okay. That is the end of the action items. And that also looks like that's the end of our meeting. But what I will say before I adjourn, what seems like should also be on this list is future agenda items, which we have discussed. So I would like to move that a future agenda item for our next meeting be the land acknowledgement, and I hope that someone will second me on that.
Land development and.
No,
climate
No,
matter?
Land
first the land acknowledgement as on the agenda to be discussed at our next meeting. I hope someone will second that.
I'll second that.
Great.
Can I have a discussion on that? What does that look like? What does that mean?
Yep, so I think that, we have a member of the public that would like to address that?
We're not to deliberate relative to the future agenda item.
Okay.
As an information item, I tell you all to type it into your Google and look at, I think San Marcos has a pretty good website and explanation on it for what they did for their land acknowledgement. And there are others as well, so.
Yes, so when I read the land acknowledgement in the last meeting, I took the land acknowledgement from Cal State San Marcos. And what it would look like to me is that it would be a standing item on the agenda after the call to order, where the land acknowledgement will be read. I imagine it will take 30 seconds. 30 seconds, it's about 75 words. And it would just be myself reading it, or if someone else felt comfortable reading it.
So I just suggest we stop there because it's a future agenda item and
Okay.
we'll bring back a report
So,
relative to the action item to include it.
Okay, great, thank you. Now, additional additions to a next agenda would be the two potential standing committees that we talked about tonight, and we would also need to address the ad hoc committee, which I did not provide a slate for tonight.
Okay.
So it would be, so I'm proposing that we address the Land Use Developer Relations Committee, the Climate and Water Reuse Committee, and the Hillside Property Ad Hoc Committee. So I'm asking for a second for that to be put on the next agenda.
They're future agenda items.
Yeah.
You've got the motion to continue it, so
Okay.
you didn't take any action on the Hillside ad hoc, which it would remain the same until the next meeting when you add it to the agenda.
Okay, but I do need do I need a second?
No,
Okay.
no.
Okay,
matter of fact, when you guys tabled it and moved it into next meeting, you got your second, so it's all.
okay,
let's move
thank
forward.
you. Thank you for that clarification. Okay,
One question, I'm staff will plan on bringing those two separate new committees as two separate items for discussion instead of one item. So this way it can be voted on individually.
Okay, I would appreciate that. Happy holidays, everyone. I hope your holiday is filled with love and joy and people around you that adore you and a lot of good food.
Same to you.
Thank you. All right, we are adjourned.